Hello, everyone. This is Sunil, Sunderraj with Global Women's Sports Radio. I'm happy to welcome in today Seton Hall University women's basketball assistant coach, Lauren DeFalco. Coach DeFalco, thank you so much for taking some time out to speak with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. You do a great job covering us during the year. So I appreciate, all your hard work covering our program. I'm just happy I can help you out here.
Thank you so much, Coach DeFalco. I think wrapping up, I believe it's your 8th season there at Seton Hall. We just before we came on the air, we talked about, this was a very challenging season, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. But, when you look back on it, on this past season for their Seton Hall, said Pirates women's basketball team, there are many positives, to come out of this. I mean, the fact is that, starting out this season, especially, talking about, you had to serve as interim head coach for Coach Zeller, as he was in the hospital, dealing with COVID. And again, then with practices, and then, the team was shut down, a couple of times. But again, I was looking back, at the schedule, I think a couple of times, 4 or 5 game winning streaks. This was an experienced team, and then bringing in Andre Espinoza Hunter, that it really completed, said that circle. Can you just, I guess, just dive right into it, Coach DeFalco, about the, the season?
Yeah, I mean, this time last year we had just gotten shut down, and it was like a 3-week to stop the curve, and now we're a year into it. So, all throughout the summer, we didn't even know if we were going to have a season. You heard a lot on both ends. It's crazy because a lot of people don't understand the sacrifices that college coaches made this season. A lot of people got to stay home or have been home for the last year, or we're out there, we're traveling, we're on planes and buses. And then a lot of coaches got it, and in a situation where if they had a different job, maybe they don't, and you don't know the lasting effects of this COVID-19 yet. We won't know that for years. So I think, from coaches, from players, it was just a huge sacrifice all along, from everyone. And, it was hard. We made it all through till November, and then we got that shutdown right as the season started. So we missed all of our non-conference games. We tried to squeeze some in. We had some injuries, then we lost Coach Bozzella, which is, a big impact, bigger than I think kids or people, I should say, understand, just because it's like a teacher. You go every day and you have your teacher, and it's comfortability, and Coach Brazil's the head coach, and all of a sudden he's not there when we're playing. And then we got shut down again. So we basically, in the month of November, December, I think, played 3 games. We were shut down for over 40 days. And it's just, it's very unique. You don't do that during the season. And then we added Andra. She was here for like 3 practices, then she started, so it was like the team we had November, December. We lost Femi for the year when she blew out her Achilles. And then all of a sudden, January, we have a completely different team. So it was a very, very unique year in that, very unique that you never knew if you're going to practice or play the next day. Every time you took a COVID test, you were just holding your breath for those 2 or 3 hours before you got the results back. Just very tiring on the mind, very tiring on the body, very tiring to play in front of nobody. It just got very, very, just tiring after a while. Just, you're playing in front of nobody, you got to promote your own energy. But to the girls' credit, we had a great season. If it's a regular season, we're an NCAA tournament team. Between us, I think we got the short end of the stick. We were better than a lot of teams that were picked. But I think a lot of people that didn't get a chance to watch our games or look, didn't see us play a lot, or we didn't get to play a lot of non-conference, which hurt us. But we were better than a lot of the teams that were picked. So, 3 first team all conference players never happened in the history of Seton Hall. For Andra to come in mid-year and do what she did, for Lauren Park Lane to become most improved, go from 6 points a game to, 17 and a half. It's just a credit to them, a credit to the girls, because when we were quarantined, we got to go home. So we were in our houses with our families, et cetera. So these kids were stuck in dorm rooms, and they have not seen their families. They went home a little bit before Christmas, didn't see their families the majority of the season. So it's hard. It was a lot harder than I think people on the outside world really understand what it was like. So really proud of the kids, really proud of the program, because I thought this was actually one of our better years last year, this year. It was just a lot of fun to coach this group of kids.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had to ask you, personally, filling in those, couple of games as the interim head coach, preparing for those games, and just, with working with the coaching staff, with the players, definitely in consultation with, head coach, Tony Bozzella. What were those, first, couple of weeks or a month, can you just talk about that stretch?
Absolutely. It wasn't as hard because he allows us to coach a lot. That's the one thing about, there's a lot of head coaches, well, you'll go to their practice and their assistants don't say a word. Don't say a word on the bench. Don't say a word in practice, where he's the opposite. He lets myself, Jose, Coach Flag, really speak a lot, have a lot of input, run drills, run a lot of practice. So that adjustment in terms of that wasn't too bad, because like I said, we just have a lot of voice. So he allows us to do that. No, the adjustment was obviously just not having him there. And between us, I didn't care about the games, because at that point he was on oxygen, didn't know what the outcome was going to be, didn't know how long he was going to be in there, didn't know if he was going to make it. This thing changes so quickly in people. One day they're fine, next day they're, in a coma. So like, didn't know the outcome. So the games at that point didn't matter. That was the hard part. What people didn't understand is, at that point, I had spoke to our administration. They said, do you want to play? And I said, we have to, because I can't ask these kids to keep practicing and not play games. Like, we're going to lose the kids. Yeah. So we had to make a decision. But, you're coaching the Wagner game and you're coaching the St. Peter's game. And in the back of your head, you're like, God, I hope he's okay. It was just so much more than basketball at that point. The whole season was just so much more than basketball. But, I was fortunate. We have a great staff. They all stepped up. We did it together. I know I was the intern, but we all did it together. Yeah. We all just try to keep it as status quo as how Coach Zeller would do it, with our own twist of, whatever our guts were telling us at that time. And, luckily the girls played great in both games, so I didn't really have to make too many tough decisions. We were able to get a lot of the kids in the game. But yeah, overall it was hard. It just feels like two different seasons. A season, like I said, a totally different team in November, December, with totally different situations, to then a totally different team in January, February, March. So it was a really unique year. It's one of the years I probably will obviously never forget, because you'll never have a year like this again. Nope.
I wanted to ask you that, I was just jotting some of my notes down here in the past year. So you talked the development of players. I mean, you talked about Andra, and, said Lauren Park Lane, said first team All Met, Desiree Elmore, second team. And the future looks very bright. I mean, you have, I think, a couple incoming transfers as well. Yeah. And, for the 2021-22 season, I mean, I was looking 11 conference, I think, all met, players. Yep. We talk about Deja, Simmons, Khadidra Simmons, and then in fact, Shekinah Richardson, who was the first, Seton Hall player drafted in the WNBA. Yep. I mean, can you talk about, in your 8 years there, I mean, developing these players, seeing the growth of this program, but those players, I mean, that's going to be very rewarding, Coach DeFalco.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Deja Simmons actually came by the other day to say hi, and it was Dee Simmons last day, because she got a job at St. Bonaventure. She's going to be assistant coach up there, which is great for her. So just having those kids come back, that's the best part about Seton Hall, the way Coach Zeller runs it. And when you can get those local kids to stay home, because then they always have somewhere to come back to. But Dee and Deja really set the tone. They took the program to new heights. They went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in over 20 years. They won 28 games and won the Big East regular season championship, which will probably be one of the last ones, because if UConn's going to win majority of them. So they were able to do that. They really set the program. And then Shekinah really followed it up, took a chance on us, came here, continued our success. And then, you have guards like Andra, guards like Lauren, Maya Jackson, kids that are just really bought into the program. And it's more about the we instead of the me. That's what they did. Andra had to sacrifice a lot to come here. Lauren had to sacrifice a lot when Andra came in here. Maya Jackson had to sacrifice a lot when Andra came in here, and they didn't care. They just want to win. It's a big testament to them. And, we're really, really big on player development because of where we came from. At the mid-major level at Iona, you're not getting the top recruits. So you got to get them better. You got to work every day. And we brought that mentality here 8 years ago. And I think it shows. We have 3 all conference most improved in the last 8 years, more than anybody in the conference. So I think it shows in our player development, and it's a testament to the kids. They work hard. Lauren Park Lane went home last summer in the shutdown. We weren't allowed to have the kids on campus, and she got herself a trainer, and a credit to her parents, and she just got better, and it showed this year. So it's a testament to them. It's a testament to how we run the program. Like I said, we're really big on player development. It's funny, we'll get a lot of transfers who are like, wow, we never did any individual work, back in our school, and they're at top 10 schools in the country. So it's just something that we believe in here, getting our kids play better. If you want to play basketball, this is the place to come, because we play a lot of basketball. We work on a lot of basketball. And I think that's why we've had success. And even Shadeen Samuels, she was
I was just about to mention
preseason player of the year for the first time in our history. So just this kids is working, getting better. It's a testament to them. And it's just a testament to the staff that, what we're able to do with those players.
Yeah. I you alluded to, said the coaching staff. And I think, it's one of the best coaching staffs, I think, Big East could be, say across the country. I mean, can you talk about, working with these people on an everyday basis and then during the season in-game action? I mean,
Yep.
in that role, I think that's just as critical.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody has roles and everybody understands the roles, but I think we all have a common goal, which is to win. Coach Bozzella is great because he doesn't have an ego. He's not afraid to let assistants run practice, give input, where there's a lot of head coaches that are, that don't want that input or don't trust, their staffs enough. And he's not. He knows his strengths and he knows his weaknesses. And his weaknesses, he makes sure he has someone there to make him stronger. And his strengths, he's very good at. Coach Jose, Coach Ribbon, he's been a head coach for over 20 years at William and Patterson. So he brings a different vision here, which is great. And to his credit, he was a head coach, a very successful head coach. Then he had to come on staff and be an assistant. And he put his ego aside. And because that's not easy for a lot of people to do, when you're a boss for a long time and you got to work for someone else. And he just wants to win. And he has a great job of getting the kids in the gym all the time to get them better. Coach Flagg does a great job just relating to the kids. She's like the mother hen on staff that the kids really trust and can go to. And that goes a long, long way, more than anything, that the kids know they have someone. And then Coach Sanella, same thing, was a head coach at FDU for a long, long time, put his ego aside when he came here, does everything we ask him to do. So we just have a really great staff, that just has a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. But like I said, at the end of the day, we all just want one common goal, which is to win. So if that's telling the kids to run backwards the whole game so they can win, we'll do it. If it's telling them to do that, like whatever it is, we just all come together. We just have one common goal, which is to win. And that's important because some staffs don't have that. Some staffs have agendas where ours, I think, it's just one common goal.
Yeah. I wanted to shift, of course, to athletics, and the administration as well. And now, seeing that the Walsh Gymnasium is undergoing renovations, it's gonna look spectacular when it's completed. Can you just talk about the facilities on campus and, of course, the support from, athletic director, from administration as well?
Absolutely. Pat Lyons, our previous AD, did a great job of just when we got here of we have a new weight room. We had a new fueling station. We had a new film room. We had a new training room. Like all that stuff matters. Like people think like what these kids want is just like a dorm room and a nice gym. Like that matters more to them than anything, which is silly, but it's just the truth. So now, Pat had gotten this project started with Walsh Gym and it was supposed to happen last year, but then obviously COVID hit. And then now our AD Brian Felt has really been able to follow up with it. And it's going to be huge. We were the only team in the conference that didn't have a video scoreboard. So you're going to well, what does that matter? Because you know what, when you put their film up there and they're running out before a game, the kids love it. Like it matters to the kids. It doesn't matter to us as adults, but it matters to the kids. Walsh is one of the hardest places to play in, and we're going to keep that size, but now we're just going to be updated. So now when we bring recruits on, we can, show the commitment that we have here for women's basketball, the commitment we have for the student athlete. And that, like you said, that starts from our administration. Our success these last 2 years is no coincidence that, Brian Feld has been supportive, but then our SWA Tatum has just been on a different level. She's just so supportive with us, so supportive as an administrator with our staff and helping us figure out things, helping us get Andra in the middle of the year, like she and our compliance guy, Will, were just huge with that. There's a lot of people in the past or people other places that would say, no, we're just not doing this right now. Like they were all on board. They bent over backwards to make sure it happens. If we don't get Andra, we don't have the season that we had. And that's how you're successful. When you have people above you that want to win as much as you do and will do whatever they can to help you. That's why you're successful, and in the past, I don't know how much it was like that, but now it is just fully committed. And we're just so great, thankful. We tell them all the time, so thankful for Will and Tatum because they're the ones that really are the backbones of our program and make everything work.
Great. I had to ask you, going back to your first season, it's a long time ago, but
I remember
you remember and just what that was experience. And I had to commend you as well. 2017, named by the WBCA 30 under 30 list.
I'm getting old now. You're aging me.
Can you talk about this? But your first season, and of course that accomplishment as well.
I remember the first season like this yesterday. I remember walking into that meeting. Now we had left a team at Iona that had the Player of the Year. She became the all-time leading scorer in the MAC. We had the Rookie of the Year. She became the second all-time leading scorer and all-time leading rebounder in the MAC. We had a great guard that actually ended up transferring to us, Alicia Powell, but she was at Iona at that time. We had an all-conference point guard. So, we walked away from a team that was going to win, the MAC and win 25 games and came in here. And it was just it was a rebuild. It was a rebuild in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I remember that first meeting, Coach Zeller and I were like, did we make the right decision? Because this is not going to be what we thought for a long time. But we did. You can't run away from a challenge, and it's been nothing but great since then. Even the first season here, I think we won 20 games, went to WNIT Sweet 16, and just to give a player like Didi, who had 3 coaches at that point, other players in the program, just some success finally. And then obviously the second year we took off. But yeah, that first year was hard in a lot of ways. It was hard because you're cleaning, when you come to a program that hasn't had a lot of success, you gotta get them to understand success, get them, build that culture, get that winning attitude. And it took us till that WNIT Princeton game in the first round to really get the kids to buy in. It took us a whole year to get them to buy in. So that wasn't easy. But obviously we have no regrets. It's worked out great, and we're happy we came here. And, because of that success that the kids have, I had that, little award that was success, but that's all success that the program has. You don't get that stuff. You don't get coaches of the years or any of these other awards if you don't have success as a program. So that's all a testament to the kids and to the program, what the program's become.
Talk about, the intensity gets turned up several notches once you get into tournaments, WNIT, NCAA tournament, Big East. We've seen, can you tell what those moments, just, with the players, the rest of the coaching staff, just what that, you even go back to last year, you guys almost, pulled off a stunning upset. I think it was against the Ball. Lost, said by a couple of points, but just what those, that's just, those are special times.
Absolutely. That's what you play for. If you can't get fired up for those games, then you shouldn't be playing college athletics, because that's what you play for. Those moments, those winner go homes, those moments that could change your life, the memories that you never forget are built in those moments. You find out who your real players are in those moments, those kids that really show up in those moments. And Lauren Park Lane's success this year was from that game last year. She came out in that Butler first round game, upset that she wasn't on the all rookie team, and just went off, and she never looked back. So that's where great players and great moments are born, are in those NITs, are in those postseason games. That's where Didi Simmons really took off, and that following year is when we had all that success. That's where a lot of those of our stars are born, in the NCAA tournament, in the NITs, and the Big East tournament. So, you said it correctly. The intensity and the level is just on a different extreme. And I think that's, it was disappointing how he ended this year because of that, but I just think it was because of the year and being tired and all that stuff. But I think in a normal year, when you have your fans and you're fired up, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like winning a playoff game. It doesn't matter. First round, second round, going to the championship. There's just nothing like it.
No, definitely. You alluded to the fact that you played and, coached, I said with Coach Tony Bazzell at Iona. You talk about, the back-to-back, going into the MAC championship games. It doesn't get any better than that, playing, and coaching at your alma mater.
Absolutely. And at that point we were rebuilding. When I committed to Coach Bazzell, I think he won one game his first year, 7 games the second year, and then my freshman year he won 6 games. So it wasn't like but when you went there, he had a vision, and I wanted to be part of that vision. So when we went to those championship games, we won 17 games I think my second year, went to the championship game my junior and senior year. There was just so much pride because that program was in such the bottom dweller for so long. And it was just so much pride to get that program to new heights. And I'm still very close with my college teammates. We still hang out all the time. And that's why, because that bond you build when you're doing that, and all those days in the gym and all those long hours in the gym and all that stuff you're doing, you don't even remember that anymore. You just remember the memories and the moments. And that's what I try to tell the kids, don't, before it's going to be over, as when you're in it, it takes forever. And then when you're done, it's like, oh my God, that, I don't know how that went so fast, but 100%, you don't remember, how tired you were or this or that. You just remember the moments, getting to that championship game, running out in the court with all our families there for the first time in over 25 years. And Iona history, all that stuff is just, winning WNIT games. Unfortunately, we never made to the tournament, but winning WNIT games and then being able to go back and coach there for a little bit. It was great. It was great just to see the program continue to rise. And it's the same thing here. Just, you're never going to have as much connection because you didn't play here as you will at Iona, as I do at Iona, but it's still the same thing. Getting back to the NCAA tournament or getting to the postseason here or getting this or that here, because there's always a lot of firsts here, first time having 3 all-conference players. It's a lot. It's really fun. That's what you coach for all that success.
What was so impressive, Coach DeFalco, is that you were able to balance out being a student athlete. You made Dean's List. You, I believe, earned a Bachelor Arts degree in elementary education, the history concentration.
You do your homework.
And then on the flip side, athletically, I think led the school in 3-point field goals made and the number of games you played, your durability. Can you just talk about how you were able to just again just flawlessly be able to do that?
Yeah. Sometimes I look back and I don't know. Sometimes I go for a run now at my old age and I'm like, oh God, my body doesn't recover. But that's just a testament to how I was raised. I was raised blue collar. I was raised with a father that ran his own business. My mother stayed home and raised me and my brother. I'm one of 5. She raised us. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. Blue collar, work hard. I was raised mentally tough. I'm about as mentally tough as someone you'll meet. So to me, ever sitting out of a practice was a failure. I missed one practice in 4 years in college, and that's because I had a fever and Coach B made me sit out. But, to me, I love playing. Mm-hmm. So every game I want to play, like I never wanted to take off. And that's why I don't maybe relate as much to this generation, because it's not as important to them at some points. Yeah. But I loved playing. And then going to school was important. It was stressed upon me growing up, yeah. So I think that's stuff that you're raised with, going to school. It's all the same. I always tell my kids, you can't be successful on the basketball court and be unsuccessful on the academic part, because it just doesn't relate. You can't be like really, really successful and then somewhere else be unsuccessful, because it means you don't have a work ethic in either one. So it's never going to relate. You have to be successful in everything you do. So being successful academically with the grades I had, I thought translated to being successful on the court, because I just worked hard in everything I did. I took pride in everything I did. And that's just the message I try to relate to the kids. And I think that's why a lot of student athletes are successful, because you have to manage. I mean, you're literally given a sport 4 to 6 hours a day. Then you got, 5 to 10 hours of school. Then you got to figure out a time to have a social life, figure out time to do your academics. You really learn how to time manage. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of athletes go on to be very successful in the workforce, because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to be organized and detailed. Mm-hmm. And then, you go back to and just recently, I know that the team participated, of course, in food distribution, in Newark. And I thought that, for the COVID-19 relief, I thought that was really outstanding, because I think, just giving back to the community is so important,
Absolutely.
These are life lessons. These,
absolutely. Everything going on in the world, our kids were very outspoken about the racial injustices and all that. And we wanted to do more last year, but because of COVID, we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to go to downtown Newark. Coach Zeller and I did that actually over the summer. Just me and him did that food bank as well, but we weren't allowed to do as much last year. So now that the world's opening up a little bit more, we just wanted to take the kids down there, because this is our neighborhood. It's in our backyard. Danielle Robinson, her high school coach, is the brother of the mayor of Newark. So he was down there, and she was, everybody knew her, and it was just great to see her give back to people that she grew up with, and that people that she knew. It's important to the kids, because they got to see what it's like out there. They got to see everything, not just be in this little bubble that we, create here in college athletics. Like, it's good for them to see what's going on in the world. It's good for them to give back. Our director of basketball operations, Shalia Lyons, does a great job of, they do community service all the time. She does a great job of giving back. She takes pride in it, personally. She does a lot on her own too. So she gets the girls involved. And I just think we have so much to be fortunate for. Let us give back to those that need, as much as we can.
Yeah. I don't want to forget about a couple of years spent, of course, at Sacred Heart. I mean, I think that's where, talk about building that foundation, building up your experience, because, looking at some of your tasks there, academic monitoring, scouting, recruiting, assisting with the guard positions. I mean, that's quite a bit, to handle. But I'm sure that, again, for, as you moved on to Iona and now, of course, at Seton Hall, that all that experience, said definitely paid off. Can you just talk about that time under head coach Ed Swanson? Yeah,
I had to move up to Connecticut on my own. I never lived there. I had to live by myself. I wasn't making, I was actually the third assistant / GA. It wasn't called that, but we only had 2 assistants at the time. So I was a GA / third assistant. So, I was full time plus getting my master's at night. So I'd be working, 8 in the morning till basically I would stay there all day till my classes were at night, which were 3 or 4 days a week. I did study hall for student athletes, just got to know the players and all that kind of stuff. So that was as much as I learned, because one, I didn't work for Coach Michelle anymore. So it's hard if you only work for him your whole career, because you only know one way. So I got to learn another way under Ed Swanson. We had a lot of success. We won the NEC that year. We went undefeated. So just to see how someone else does it. And like you said, I was involved in all aspects. So just to get my feet wet, like I'll never forget, they do scouting reports like in practice. And one of the coaches was like, "Hey, you got to read the scouting report to the girls." And I had never done that. So I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to public speak, you know? Like I'm 21 years old and they're all 20, you know, or 22 years old, they're all 20. So it's like, I was like, I don't want to do this, but she made me do the uncomfortable stuff. And then when I got to Iona, now I get here, I just go up and you don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
But I could see it with our younger kids. If we let them do scout or something, they're very like, "Oh my God, it's the same thing. It's hard until you get forced to do it." So they made me do a lot of things that I was uncomfortable, but you only get comfortable by doing the uncomfortable. So that time taught me more than probably any time, because just learning how to scout, getting DVDs. We still had VHSs back then, converting them to DVDs, getting it in the mail. Like all this stuff was just so much unadvanced as it is now. So just getting all that stuff, just being involved, it gave you, I literally had a piece in everything. So when I went to Iona, I was like, "Oh, I did this. It wasn't like I just did one or two things. I had a hand in everything. So it really helped my development to start off my career.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's you made a great point there with the technology.
Oh yeah, we used to convert. I used to have to convert VHSs to DVDs. I'd have to come in like Christmas Eve to see if the film was delivered in the mail, because you didn't have synergy like you do nowadays. You had to mail each other. Do film exchange. So yeah, it was different. It was a lot.
Yeah, I just have a couple more. Can't thank you enough for the time, Coach DeFalco.
No,
I know this is taking way back now, of course, to Immaculata High School in Somerville. I mean, you were a star there as well. I had to ask, and then you, of course, played AAU basketball for the Jersey Shore Stars. So I wanted to ask you about your time there. That those must be, again, very fond memories. Just looking back at what you were able to again accomplish. Sit on that court.
No, absolutely. I mean, I went to Immaculata, which was about 45 minutes one way from my house. My bus would come about 5:15 in the morning. We didn't have a bus, so we had to like hire them to come outside. So I'd come like 5:15 in the morning, and then I would, we get out of school, I think it was like 2:10 or something, or 2:45 or something like that. My bus wouldn't come till 4 because of the way. So like, we talk about starting early in terms of sacrifice and understanding, like, if you're going to do this, like, you're going all in, you're not going to have much of a social life, you're doing this to be committed. It started back in high school, because like I said, I mean, I was at school. We'd have practice, 7 to 9. Sometimes I'd stay at school till 7, because by the time I got home and went back, I wouldn't be able to do it. So all that stuff just came, again, discipline, staying focused. My parents weren't paying all this money for me to go to a private school if I wasn't going to be successful. So keeping my grades up. And I played for a phenomenal coach there. She was an All-American at Temple. So she really taught me and prepared me for college, which a lot of these high school coaches don't anymore. She really did that for me. And just that sacrifice is just that everyday grind and no days off. I think that's what really prepared me, and that's why I am the way I am today. And the same with the AAU. I played for a great AAU coach as well. And same thing though, I would drive down to Point Pleasant, which was an hour 15, practice and drive all the way home. So there was never anything that like was close. It was always, drive, and always a grind, and always a sacrifice, and credit to my parents for making that sacrifice with me. But all that stuff taught me to be prepared for that next level, because of all the sacrifices I was making, at that age, and just how serious I was about basketball and about my future.
Terrific. I was going to ask you then, but what I might as well ask you now, what makes the game of basketball so special? And then when you were growing up, like as far as the sports you played, like, when you discovered that, look, basketball is my passion, and there's something good at it, and I could do, for a long time to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had 3 older brothers growing up, so you're just forced into, sports and getting beat up. And my mom was one of those people that would not let us sit home. So, I'm a kid. I want to sit home and play in the pool and watch TV all day. And she was like, no. So I played soccer. I played baseball with the boys. I played softball. I played basketball. I did cheerleading for my brothers when they were in the Pop Warner. I mean, I did it all. My mom never let me play football, which is what I wanted to do, but I did it all. So that was all credit to her. And then just one day, like, I didn't even like basketball growing up, really. I wasn't really good. And then one day around like 7th, 8th grade into high school, I was like, oh, I really like this. And then it just became like a passion. And just became something that I just did year round. So, I just loved it. I loved playing. I loved watching it. I still do love watching it. I don't love playing anymore at all. I'll get hurt, but I love watching it. I just love sports. I just love being around sports. It's just something I love. I'm a huge golfer now. I love to go out and golf as much as possible. I just love sports. There's just something about it, something about the competitiveness that you just don't get anywhere else. And I just love the storylines that come out of sports are just like no other. And maybe that's why, but like I said, I just love all sports. I mean, I watch football, basketball, like I said, golf, I'll watch baseball, so I just love being around sports.
Yeah, it's never a downtime. It's 24/7.
You always have something to watch. Yep.
That's what I was going to say. Even when it comes to now with you've been in the coaching ranks for so long, there's never a day of you're constantly there's something, coming up on the schedule every
Oh,
single day.
100% coming up on the schedule, or
Yeah.
you're never off. Like you're
Yeah.
never turned off. Like, I went to my sister-in-law's birthday party yesterday and I have missed calls, and you're just like, it's really hard to balance because you want to take those calls, but then you're like, at some point I got to put my phone down and just turn off because you just get burnt out. And I did. And I think, COVID to me, I feel bad saying this, it was a blessing, and not a blessing because I know a lot of people passed away, but just for me to have that time off, to have that like shutdown, because you don't get that in college athletics. You always hear people say, "Oh, I'm taking a sabbatical." I was like, I know you used to say to Coach B, "I wish I could take a sabbatical and get paid." Basically, that's what happened last year. We had a sabbatical. We didn't go out in April, May, or July like we normally do. It was just a nice way to recharge because it is a grind. Because if it's not a recruit, you're worrying about your kid. And nowadays, you're worrying about kids leaving left and right because they just leave left and right now. There's, it's just there's not every time you get a text from a kid, "Hey, can I talk to you about something?" It's like, "Oh my God, she's transferring to this, to that." There's never ever a time where you could just switch it off. Even if your phone's not going off, you're just thinking, "All right, this kid, I gotta do this." Like you just don't turn it off up here too often. So that's the hard part. That's the part that people don't get about college coaches. They see the money, they see the glitz and the glam, but they don't understand the things that really go behind
all
it.
the behind the scenes work, all the countless hours spent in the office and said away from family, said it's
There's an article out there on the Kentucky women's coach who resigned earlier this year. And everyone said, "Oh, it was because he had health issues, because he had tripped and fell, hit his head, he was recovering." But he said, "No, it was just because of COVID. And I was finally home with my daughters, and I finally was going to Saturday morning soccer games, not Saturday morning with recruits. And I was finally." He's like, "I just realized like I can even it just wasn't my calling anymore. You're just gonna miss so much." And some people are willing to make that sacrifice, and some people aren't. And he just came to that realization. I think a lot for people with the COVID thing, like people in our professions, came to that realization, like it's not that serious, it's not that important. Hopefully we can do it for as long as we can. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll go do something else because it will wear on you. It will wear you down after a long time if you don't take those steps to step away sometimes if you need to.
No, definitely. You probably answered this question about, but I wanted to ask you maybe again, is that what makes coaching women's basketball, college basketball so special, and just the growth of the sport, said over the years, Coach DeFalco?
Yeah, I think you're right with the growth of the sport. You saw it this year I think this was the most viewed NCAA tournament. I think social media has really given it a platform because when the whole thing happened with the weight room, like stuff like that would happen years ago, you would never hear about it. So I think the growth is there, and I think it got to continue to go up. We have to continue to figure out a way for to get more people involved. But just coaching in general, it's just cool to see. It's hard nowadays because a lot of kids don't see it out. And that's the disappointing part about it. If you see it out, you'll see a kid like Shadeen Samuels, who averaged 4 points a game as a freshman, who was suspended as a freshman, who wasn't going to make it as a freshman, to then preseason player of the year as a senior who walks out of here with a degree. It's like those stories, those kids that just come here with not knowing anything and then graduate here with all these accomplishments, with a vision for their life, with discipline and being able to go out in the real world. So that's the nice part about it. And I wish, more kids could see it through this in today's society, but they don't, because now with the one-time transfer and they don't get exactly what they want and they leave. And that's the downfall about it, because I think if they were to put the time in it and see it through, that's where they get the most rewards. That's where they get prepared for life, as opposed to just running every time it gets hard. But yeah, I think the game is continuing to grow. It's exciting. I think the best is yet to come with sponsorships and viewership and social media. I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, and it's just great, now with TV, said they were showing preseason games, WNBA, that's great, exposure, and then now with the regular season starting up. I wanted to quickly pivot back to head coach Tony Bizzell. I feel like I didn't talk about coach enough, that what are, the intangibles, what that he brings to the table, to this program, to Seton Hall University for women's basketball. I had to ask you about that, Coach.
Yeah, I think he's genuine, first and foremost. I think there's a lot of phony in college athletics, people that say one thing and do another. I think he's very, very genuine. You're distracted. He's at my door right now. He's distracting me. I think he's very, very genuine, though. I think first and foremost, I think what he says he means. Like, is he intense? Is he passionate? Absolutely. But I think the kids know at the end of the day, if they want to call him, if they need him, he's going to be there, whether they're here, whether they graduated. I think he's very loyal, loyal to Seton Hall. Obviously, he went here. So this place, as I said, Iona has a place for me. In my heart, Seton Hall has a place for him in his heart. So he's very loyal. in that respect. And he works really hard. I mean, he probably works harder than any head coach in the country, as hard as any head coach in the country. And you have to here at Seton Hall. This place isn't just giving you recruits. You know, we don't have the best this or the best that or the best this. Like, you really got to grind here to be successful. And that's why I think, you know, what Kevin Willard's done the last couple of years has been absolutely amazing, because it's not an easy job. But I think what Coach Zeller just brings in his passion and his charisma and his generosity, and he's loyal and he's true. And I think the kids can see that when they're here. Like, he's not just BSing them. You know, he makes time for them. He'll go out with kids Saturday morning for breakfast, Sunday night for dinner. Like, he does all that stuff, behind the scenes stuff. It's more than just coaching to him. Like, he generally wants to make an impact on their lives. And some he does, some he doesn't. You know, it's just the way the world works. But I think he's made a lot. He's a lot of former players that continue to call him, you know, on a daily basis.
It's fantastic. I know you talked about the family support, but I'm wondering, like, you know, what you've been able to do here, you know, at Seton Hall, and then of course your previous stops. What that, you know, the reaction, just, you know, that, I mean, it's so important. I'm sure, you know, for you to have that, you know, definitely to lean on, you know, said, you know,
my personal family.
Yeah, your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I live across the street from my brother.
Okay.
My other brother lives across the town. My other brother lives the town over. My sister's getting married in 2 months. She lives in the town over with my parents. So yeah, we're all right there. So people always say, "Oh, when are you going to be a head coach? When are you going to be a head coach?" I said, if it's in this area, I'll consider it, because I'm not one of those people that wants to move to Illinois to be a head coach at IUPUI. You know, for me, I value seeing my parents. I value seeing my brothers and sisters. I value seeing my nieces and nephews more than I value, I don't want to say the job, but more than I value having to try. Like, you see assistants that are 6 years, 6 different assistant coaches, 6 different spots. I'm like, how do you ever establish something? I value my roots more than that. So that's why people are like, oh, where are you going to go? It had to be, you know, New Jersey, New York, somewhere in a good spot, because I'm not willing just to pick up and go anywhere. It's just more for me than just that. And there's nothing wrong with the people that do. It's just, for me personally, it's more than just, you know, traveling around and getting jobs left and right.
Final question, Coach DeFalco, is I think important. What your advice is for younger coach, or for younger, you know, women, especially, you know, that want to break into the coaching ranks. And, you know,
Work hard. Be willing to do anything, because you can't be entitled and like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want that. You have to be willing. When I was a GA, we had a camp. I slept in the dorms for 12 straight days. I didn't make any money. Like, you got to be willing to do anything. And that's what I think the younger generation sometimes struggles with, the sense of entitlement. You can't be entitled. You know, my head coach will mop the floor if it needs to be mopped. Like, you got to be willing to just sacrifice and do anything. And you gotta understand you're gonna make a lot of sacrifices. You're gonna live a different life. You're gonna miss a lot of things. You're gonna miss bachelorette parties. You're gonna miss weddings. You're gonna miss this or that, because it's just the way it works. And you have to be willing to sacrifice if you want to be successful. You know, you have to be willing to understand that it's a different job and it's a different mindset than most jobs. It's not 9 to 5. Like I said, your phone doesn't turn off. There's not a day of the year that your phone turns off. Whether, you know, kids are going to call you in the middle of the night, and it's just what the reality is. So you just have to understand what really goes into it. I think a lot of athletes think, oh, this is cool. They wear sweatpants to work every day and they get to coach basketball. Blah, blah. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it. So just be open-minded when you get into it. Understand it's going to be a sacrifice, and just be willing to grind at any point to get to where you want to get to. Because that's on the men's side, they grind and they get there. On the women's side, I think sometimes they want it a little bit more handed to them. Or I think you just got to be more prepared to grind and just do whatever you got to do to get to that next level.
Well said. All right, Coach DeFalco, the floor is yours. If there's anything I've left out, if you want to add, you know, you're more than free to do so.
You did a great job. I mean, you brought up stuff that I forgot about. You know, you did a great job in your research and your questions. I'm just, I'm thankful that you had me on here. I really am. Like I said, you do great work covering us and just covering women's sports in general. You know, I'm excited for next year. With Andra and Lauren Park Lane and Maya Jackson leading the way. I'm really excited for the recruits we have coming in. I think this could be one of our best teams we've had if everyone's able to stay healthy. I just think this is going to be a team that's going to play for each other. There's not going to be any egos. They're just going to go out there and win. It's exciting. It's an exciting time at Seton Hall. Exciting time for our men's soccer programs going to the Sweet 16. You know, it's just an exciting time overall for Seton Hall. And I just, like I said, I thank you for having me on, giving me this opportunity. And I just think, you know, women's basketball will continue to grow, and I think we have to help as much. And I think you doing these interviews, you know, help grow it, just help getting us out there. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Coach DeFalco. You know, wishing you continued success, as well as head coach Tony Bizzell, the rest of the coaching staff and players.
Thank you. Thank you.